I'm Crystal Cassell from CU Online. We got Mike and David, and you may or may not have seen us in another presentation today. So we're going to be talking to you about the 20 things you should be doing in your online course. We've been doing online for about 17 years at CU across the street, and we work with a lot of faculty, and so we get a lot of feedback from them about what works and what doesn't. And Mike and David both teach a class online, and so we kind of compiled these 20 things. And since the presentation's 25 minutes, we're not going to get to them all, which is okay, because we gave you a handout with all 20 things. So don't worry, you're not being gypped out of anything, okay? But we'll go ahead and get started. Most important thing that you should be doing in your online class, we think, is to give feedback to your students. Up here is an example. On the left, you have just a comment, a grade. On the right, we use Canvas as our learning management system, but this is a speed grader functionality. It's got comments, it's got, you can mark things out, you can do a video comment, really providing students with an opportunity to get some real feedback, because that's what students are looking for. What did I do right? What did I do wrong? What can I improve on? So definitely, without a doubt, give lots of feedback. One thing that we do talk about with feedback is public feedback. And if you haven't read Death to the Dropbox, it's a little EDUCAUSE article that David Thomas and Patrick Lowenthal wrote years ago. And basically, it's about changing the way that you give feedback. So instead of in those little Dropbox in your online course, private between you and the student, kind of opening that up and maybe having students submit their assignment to a discussion board, and then having them give feedback directly to the students, not the grade, just the feedback. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and take a look. Second thing we think you should do in your online course is to get feedback, right? We all don't hit a home run on the first time around, so take an opportunity to get some feedback from your students on what's going well, what is not going so well, and how they're doing things. We taught a 10-week online course for faculty, and about 4 weeks in, we gave them a little survey. How are things going? You know, what can be improved? And we also asked them about their learning. How are they doing in the course? Are they reading the additional resources? Are they making the time? So this is really important, especially before that end of term. You know, don't wait all the way till the end to get that feedback. So definitely get some feedback from your students. And the third thing I'm going to talk about is communicate your expectations. Usually we do this in a syllabus statement. This is how you contact me. This is when I'm available. But students need to know these things, and they need to be reinforced. So, you know, in your weekly announcement to the class in an online course, maybe say, hey, don't forget, you can give me a call, or I'm going to have office hours. And just reinforce the fact that you are available and you are there for them. So those are the three things that I have to say.
Of course, a lot of these are like duh when you see them, but if you've ever set up or used any sort of, whether it's an LMS or you're just using some other tools, really put some thought in your structure. So we have the example here. On the left, it's a bunch of stuff, and admittedly, probably more than us would like to admit, we have some junk drawers in our online courses. We have files that have been there for 5 years. We haven't even used them since like the first time we uploaded them. We'll talk more about cleaning out junk, but really put some thought in your structure, and especially even your face-to-face classes, your students will love this, because it's like, what is happening this week? I have no idea. Well, now you can have an idea. Oh, we're talking about this reading and we're having this quiz and this assignment is happening. If you chunk things out, and we recommend by week, but I mean, you can just have like a series of units, but just do something to sort of give a sense of progress and structure to your course, so that students not only know what's happening, but they can sense like, oh, we went through these 3 movements and now we're on to this and that's coming ahead. And it just gives them a sense of place and where they stand in the course. So structure is really important. And all the LMSs and they all have tools for either it's folders or it's units or modules. You have ways to do this. So explore what makes the most sense for your course. This is one of my favorite slides. Visibly participate. This for online courses. it's easy to think because you're putting in hours and hours, you're reading all these discussions, you're grading all these papers, you're like, I'm working my ass off giving these grades to the students, but it may not look like that to them. It's like a perception thing. They know you graded their paper, but they don't have a sense that you graded 30 papers and that you spent like your entire weekend on it. And some of that's like the death to the Dropbox stuff. Like if you put your feedback publicly, they see, oh, this teacher is all over the place. They are actually working really hard. And by exposing that to them, it just gives a greater sense of, oh, this teacher is really involved. It's also just like if you do discussions, finding ways to pop in and make your presence known and not just having that ghost town feeling. But I think the key word here is visibly, because yeah, there might be some bad professors here and there that are kind of absent, but even if you are working hard, is it visible? Is sort of the question. I think the main thing we want to say here is docs and PDFs are really comfortable document formats. They're widely supported. People can open them on all sorts of devices, but maybe it's not always the best choice. Maybe it's not the best default choice. Like maybe when you really need them, use them. But there's this other thing that's really great on every single kind of device pretty much ever made, and it's called the internet. It's called web pages. And your LMS almost certainly has a way to create pages, and they will display on anything. And if you have a good, more modern LMS, often they come with mobile style, so they look great on mobile devices too. So explore your options there and see if you're just creating here's a few paragraphs and I'm explaining something, maybe it doesn't have to be a PDF. So that's that one. And is that, how many have I done? Okay, this is my last one. Clean out the junk. So I mentioned earlier about structuring your course. Just go into your course, and I'm a little more extreme. Like almost every year, I have this big accountability moment with my course. I'm like, you're all out unless I decide you're really important to the way this course works. And I try to reevaluate. I teach an online course about webinars, so it is a field that changes constantly. There's new web conferencing tools all the time. So I need to be nimble. I need to be willing to adapt to the new tools. And maybe you have a more stable set of curriculum that you don't have to be that harsh with your content, but take a look at your stuff. And you've got that article from 1994, and maybe it's just a little out of date. Maybe you need to find some updated research or something that's just a little, it may be good content, but it's not in a format that anyone enjoys encountering that stuff, and maybe there's other kinds of media.
So this one's my favorite. That's why I get to start with this slide. Grade with points. If you are grading with letters or percentages or ancient Russian runes or some kind of crazy Gaelic, you're making your life really complicated and difficult, and you're not benefiting your students in any way. Points, everybody understands points. This assignment is worth 50 points, I got 45 points. This assignment is worth 1,000 points, I got 1 point. That sends a very clear message. What justifies an A or a C is a little bit more wishy-washy. And although sometimes it's nice to kind of have that flexibility, you're going to get bombarded with questions from your students about well, why is this an A or a B? And of course, if you're giving good feedback, like Crystal mentioned, it'll cut down on some of that, but they're going to want to know how their score at the end of your course is going to be calculated. The easiest way to communicate that clearly for them and to yourself is by grading with points. Separately, entirely from your student experience is yours. If you are trying to outthink the magical calculator that we call a computer, you are likely to make mathematical errors. And as someone who spent one entire Saturday filling out grade change forms because I forgot to drop a 0, I can tell you that it did not benefit my students' learning in any way that I spent that entire Saturday changing their grades. I just let it go. I just love it so much. We give presentations literally just to have this slide in them. This one, it seems, the imagery is definitely funny, and most people would say well, certainly I don't do anything to make my life harder. But there's chances are that you picked up bad habits from your peers that maybe you didn't question at the time, and then over the years they've just gotten cemented in, and you don't really think about them. But things like complicated grading schemes, things like trying to force every activity to be readable through a PDF that none of your students really want to have to open. These are all activities that really just boil down to hitting yourself. You're making your life harder, you're making your students' life harder, and you're not getting anything out of it. It's just a net loss. Okay.
I think something they were saying, like, I'm spending so much time on this. Think about why.
Yeah. Yeah, no, if you ever ask yourself, like, man, I feel like what I'm building towards is not worth all this work, this is probably what you're doing. And then this really, I feel like, just kind of sum up everything all three of us talked about is if you're not doing this frequently, and by frequently, I mean way more frequently than you think is frequently. This isn't an every semester thing. This isn't an every academic year thing. This is probably like an every month thing, maybe every couple months. But you need to be reflecting on your content. You need to be reflecting on your activities, on your assignments, on the way you assess your students, on the way you grade your students, all of these things, because we learn more about pedagogy all the time. It's still an evolving field. We get new tools all the time. We get new processes. What our deans expect from us change all the time. So if you're still teaching the same course in spring 2015 that you taught on Blackboard in spring 2005, or God forbid, longer ago than that, chances are there are out-of-date processes, there's definitely out-of-date material, and you're just not really giving your students the experience that they deserve and that you know they should be getting. And finally, we have to do a plug. So if you're in one of our other talks, you're gonna get to hear this plug twice. Mike and I do a podcast for CU Online. If you or any of your friends are interested in any of this stuff, which I assume you are because you sit here before me, we would love to talk to you. So we're going to talk to teachers, instructional designers, ed tech people, anyone who's involved in any of this stuff. If you are in this room or you have colleagues that should be in this room, they're probably a good candidate to come and sit and talk with us. It's very informal. And if you're interested, just get in touch with myself or Mike afterwards.
Or just listen. There's already almost 10 episodes.
That's true.
You don't have to be
Okay.
there. You can
It's all on the sheet.
Oh.